Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Colony Drop. My name is Brian,
My name is Isaac.
and this is a podcast about the long-running anime series Mobile Suit Gundam.
And anything related to Gundam, everything from models, the anime, the movies, the novels, the whole culture and meta genre that is Mobile Suit Gundam.
The whole shebang. All right, Isaac, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about how you can get into Gundam. If you're not too familiar with it, maybe a little bit, or maybe you've seen one episode and you're like, hey, I want more, but wow, this show's been going on for forever and there's tons of models and tons of movies. What do I do?
Yes, I think that is the overall existential question about someone who wants to get into Gundam. You sit there and you think, what the hell do I do? This is overwhelming.
Pretty much. I feel like there's a lot of franchises kind of like that right now. Like, imagine like someone that wants to get into Star Trek. You're like, what do I do? Do I watch like those series from like the 60s? Do I just watch the new Picard or Discovery ones, or what do I do?
You're absolutely right. We have a lot of, I'll say, mature franchises that have been so long running now. They've almost reached the point where there's too much. You almost can't get into it. Or if you want to, you can't figure it out. And I think Gundam has probably approached that level.
Definitely. But okay, let's see. Let's say I've never seen Gundam, or I've seen like 2 episodes. I kind of have an idea. I just know that I like it. If I could tell somebody what to do in my shoes, I would say complete like one anime series. But the good thing about it is they're binge worthy because there's like 50 episodes, right? So you can knock it out in like a month, or depending on your schedule, maybe you can do it just nonstop, marathon it if you're like, quarantine or whatever.
Yes, this is being recorded in the middle of quarantine in May of 2020. So
it's the global pandemic.
You may not have much else to do. Now might be the perfect time to get into a 40-year-old long-running series.
Yeah. Let me just add to that, though. I guess it would depend how you get into it by what you like about Gundam. If you like the models and you're, the shows are okay, don't waste your time, jumping into the shows and all that. Just focus on the models, buy the different ones, look for the ones you like, put it together. If you really like, the manga or whatever, start reading the mangas. There's tons of them. There's some in English, assuming you don't read Japanese. I don't read Japanese, but they have them in English. If you like the shows, there's tons of shows. There's some that you could just jump into because they're kind of like one shot, just 50 episodes. And there's some that are, part of a universe or timeline that's been going on since the 1970s. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't we back up a little bit for those who have never watched Gundam or don't know much about it. Gundam has different timelines, and most of those timelines are completely separate from each other, and they have nothing to do with each other. So if you like one series and it's in one timeline, that's great. You don't have to worry about what's in a lot of the other shows. But there is one, what we'll call main timeline, or the original timeline at least, called the Universal Century, and that's where most of the filmed works take place in. So I think you can split up Gundam into those timelines and decide which ones of these do I like, which ones don't I like. Maybe I'll focus my attention there, first. There's a few timelines that have multiple series, but for the most part, UC is Universal Century, or UC has the bulk of the series, and then most of the other timelines have 1, maybe 2 or 3 shows.
I almost feel like the other timelines are easier to get into. Like, okay, there's this series called Gundam Seed, right? Came out in, I think, like the 2000s, right? And more or less.
Yep, Seed came out in 2002.
It's pretty much a play-by-play, like act-by-act rehash of the original series. So the original series is about this event called the 1 Year War. It was a war in space and Earth, blah, 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 giant robots fighting. Okay, pretty awesome. Gundam Seed is pretty much the same thing, but, it's just 2 seasons more or less. There's Gundam Seed and there's Gundam Seed Destiny, and then that's it. They haven't really continued it. Sure, there's a few manga and all that, but you can just watch that, and that's a pretty good introduction, I feel like, into Gundam. It's a well-done series. It's it's a fun ride, and I think that's good to jump into. The problem with jumping into a lot of the Gundam movies is that they usually came, after a series and sometimes lead up to a series. So you're going to need a bit of like background information to fully understand what's going on.
So what I did was I approached it from maybe 4 different ways of looking at it. I think the best way to get into Gundam, because you can Google how to get into Gundam and get all kinds of YouTube videos explaining this is the best way, or this is, you should watch this in this order. If you watch UC, do it in this specific order. Don't watch this before you watch that. I honestly think that the simplest way to get into Gundam would be to get into it like you're a kid. Meaning, go find a Gundam that you like the best, whether that's because you saw a model kit of it, whether you saw videos of that Gundam on YouTube, some sort of other merchandise, and just go find whatever series that Gundam is in, and watch that one, because that's why you're here. You found a Gundam that you like, and you may as well watch the one that you like, not a different one that someone else told you that you should watch first.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a good point. Also, yes, the original series is, great and it started it all, but some people just can't get into the older seasons or, the series that were made back in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s maybe, especially if you're used to like, modern animation style where everything's much more smooth. You might have a hard time, with the style from back then. So if that's an issue, just skip it. Watch what you like, build the models you like, and that's it. Just have fun with Gundam. That's really what you should do, and jump in with both your feet, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
And plus, that the first series, Mobile Suit Gundam, made in 1979, it's been around for 40 years. It's not going anywhere. It'll always be there if you want to come back and watch it. So I think that's a good point. Some people have a problem with old animation. Yeah. Do I think that's limiting yourself? Probably a little bit. But I respect that some people just, they don't like it, or they don't have time to sit through it. So I thought of that too. If you only want to watch new animation or newer animation, I would recommend that you watch Gundam Unicorn, because that's probably the most well animated Gundam show ever.
It's like the Avengers of Gundam.
Yeah, that's your Avengers Endgame in terms of quality
all the Avengers
animation.
Movies together.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe even any anime ever. I don't know. I can't think of one that has nicer animation. Maybe there's some that are on par, but it would be hard to think of one where I was like, oh, that definitely looked better.
Yeah, we're pretty close to the top of, yeah.
Yeah. So Gundam Unicorn, that takes place in the Universal Century. Another good one that maybe you don't want to watch Universal Century. Another good one is Iron-Blooded Orphans. That only came out a few years ago, so it's still relatively new. It looks great, also widely available.
It's a self-contained story too. Yeah.
Yeah. So because it doesn't take place in the Universal Century, there's a lot less baggage. You don't need to know anything going into it.
They introduce it all.
Another recent example is Gundam Thunderbolt, which also takes place in the Universal Century. It came out slightly after Unicorn, I think starting in 2015 through 2017. So that animation is also very, very high quality. It was released in the same format as Gundam Unicorn, OVA or original video animation. So those tend to have higher budgets and higher animation, whereas Iron-Blooded Orphans was a TV series, so it's not quite as good animation-wise, but because Iron-Blooded Orphans came out in, I think it was 2015 as well. So I mean, it's around it's around the same time. So it's very modern. It'll look new. It'll look and feel new to you. The character designs are, they don't feel dated, like if you're watching something from First Gundam or something from the 80s where big hair was a thing. So so some of us look upon that with nostalgia.
Glam rock pirates or pilots and stuff.
I could see how some people would be put off, but it is what it is. So those are the 3 I would recommend if you're looking for shiny new animation with robots beating up each other. And then another way, if say you're all in on this Gundam thing and you really want to get into the Universal Century. So then I thought there would be 2 ways to do it. The first way would be yes, I'm really serious about it, and I don't care what animation I watch. I want the full experience. And if that's the case, I think you have one path, and that path starts with Mobile Suit Gundam from 1979, followed by Zeta Gundam from the early 80s, followed by Char's Counterattack from 1988, which at the time was sort of the climax of the Universal Century saga, followed by Gundam Unicorn, which is sort of a direct sequel, I guess.
Pretty direct.
Slightly different characters, but it's basically continuing the same story.
Or are they?
Isaac's conspiracy theory, which we will get to at some point. But Unicorn came out from 2010 to 2014, so the animation is, as we just discussed, very new, very pretty. But it's crazy to think about that you're continuing the story from 1979 in 2014.
That's the Gundam strength, because it stands the test of time. The stories are they're the stories of, kind of the main stories that all human societies have. Not to sound too, that makes it sound too heavy than it is. All right. These stories kind of have everything. Okay, they got like war and romance and revenge. There's like forgiveness. There's corruption, understanding the way the world works. There's the reality of just inequality, and these stories have everything. So it's very much not so much glorifying war in the stories, but they usually almost focus around a peace message, a message of focusing on peace.
Yeah, I agree. Might take a while to get to that piece. Usually the end of the series.
Drops.
Yeah, a few colony drops, a whole lot of thousands of wartime casualties. But,
billions.
Maybe millions, but just a number.
Yeah.
In the Universal Century, those are some dated series. First Gundam is from 1979. Zeta is from 1985. There is actually a series that, if you're real serious about Universal Century, you should watch after Zeta, called Double Zeta, which is from 86, 87. That one has its own set of baggage, which we'll talk about at a later date.
That is a hard watch.
I'm actually really liking the back half.
Wow.
The beginning half was
okay.
was rough, but I think I appreciate it now on the rewatch more than I did when I initially tried to watch it, because it is pretty funny if you go into it knowing what you're getting into. And then Char's Counterattack from 88, but I would say Char's Counterattack has fantastic animation, because that's a full length movie that was released in theaters.
I'll say it's very well done, but again, you'll know it's 80s animation when you're looking at it.
Yeah, I mean it's a little old, but I still think it looks great and overall holds up really well. So and those are all full length series. So First Gundam is 43 episodes, Zeta's 50, Double Zeta is 47. So that's a lot of old animation. So if you just want to maybe dip your toes in to the Universal Century, I would probably recommend the 3 shorter series that take place in the Universal Century from the 1990s that have a lot more noticeably newer animation than the series from the late 70s and 80s. Their animation still looks somewhat modern today.
It's really
so I think
crisp.
So I think it's an easier watch, especially 8th MS Team, and actually all 3 of them are really, really well done. And those are kind of the series that I think people like us got into Gundam with, because they were shorter and shown on Cartoon Network a lot more. What was that? Oh yeah, the first series is 8th MS Team. It came out in 1996. It's 12 episodes. It takes place in the Universal Century during the 1-Year War, at the same time as the first Mobile Suit Gundam series from 1979. Just different location, different characters. Another one of those 3 series is 0080 War in the Pocket. That came out in 1989. It's only 6 episodes. It has great animation, even though it was late 80s. Very fluid animation in those fights. So it takes place basically at the end, towards the very end of the 1-Year War, that was displayed or featured in the first series. Again, different set of characters. There is a slight connection, which is pretty cool, to the first series if you've seen it. If not, you probably won't notice it. And the last series, which is probably Isaac's favorite, I'll let you talk about that one.
0083 takes place technically after, well, not technically. All right, it's a few years after the end of the original series, 1-Year War, but it's about kind of like this rebel group of the bad guys. They're trying to like continue this, project to kind of get back at the Federation that won the war, and starts off with the theft of a mobile suit, and it's pretty awesome. It's not that many episodes, definitely way less than most series. Most series are like, kind of 50-ish. This one's like, I think I said, 20 episodes.
This one's 13.
you know what? It's self-contained. It ends, they pack everything up at the end. It ends pretty finally, and then that's it. You start the series and it ends. There's no need to really know too much ahead of time. It's a series that I started watching, and that's actually kind of a good way to get into Gundam. You can just pick up whatever series you're currently watching, and then just let it kind of grab you and take you on. You'll start kind of searching or Googling, who's this character or what are they referring to, or, this episode, what did that mean? And then you'll find out, oh, it actually means this, or, oh, if in the original series, it refers to this or whatever. Then after a while, you'll be like, hey, maybe I should watch the original series, or hey, maybe I should, Google what actually happened at this battle or what this means. And it'll just kind of grab you and, take you down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and we should mention that. So 0083 came out in 1991, and I think it's very apparent that series was heavily influenced by Top Gun, which came out in America in 1986. So I think that style was popular at the time.
Yeah, Code Rocky is no Maverick though.
No, he's definitely no Maverick, but I don't know, just the feel of 0083 is very Top Gun. So if you're a Top Gun fan, 0083 maybe where you want to start. So I think those three series are great introduction to the Universal Century. You could watch all three of those series, and it's still less than watching the original Mobile Suit Gundam. You'll definitely get a sense of whether or not you want to invest more of your time in the Universal Century, particularly if you watch either 8th MS Team or 0083.
Yeah, I agree, but let's see. I feel like so much of the UC is not so much dated, but made pre-millennium.
Yeah, well, I mean, frankly, it's dated, right? I mean, it was made a long time ago.
If you aren't into that, guess what? There's plenty of other timelines in the Gundam universe that you should check out. There's C, there's 00, there's oh boy, I don't even know where to go.
There's a ton.
Gi.
Yeah. We can do a whole nother show on timelines.
We don't have the time right now to go over timelines.
Yeah, but I think another easy way to approach getting into Gundam is seeing what is available to you today. Because even if you want to watch a show, if you have no access, like say you do a bunch of research on the Universal Century and you decide that I want to watch, Victory Gundam, right? Well, guess what? The only way you can watch Victory Gundam is on Blu-ray. That's not on any streaming service. So I think maybe the easiest and best way to look at this is what is available to you right now. So I ventured down that path, and Isaac is staring at a large, messy spreadsheet that I made as a result of going down that path, which I'll clean up and post. Hopefully it's useful to someone out there. And I'm going to get into a whole bunch of observations based on what is available and how it's available that I think are fun and informative. But just based on what's available right now to everyone, I think your three best choices to get into Gundam are 8th MS Team, Iron-Blooded Orphans, and Gundam Unicorn. All three of which we've already talked about, and they all have what I would consider to be great animation. So, do you have any additions to that thought?
I'm going to go with Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny just because they're self-contained series, and they pretty much cover the 1 year war or match the 1 year wars, broad strokes, beat for beat. You can pretty much watch that and then watch the 1 year war and you're like, oh, these were pretty similar wars. They're just completely different universes.
Let's see if you keep that opinion after we discuss how Seed and Seed Destiny are available to you.
True.
So really, it comes down to streaming and Blu-ray. So Gundam is actually fairly widely available on streaming, with the exception that there is no streaming service right now and I guess I should back up and say all of this discussion is going to be based on the U.S. market. So I did not check outside of the U.S. market. This is aimed at someone living in the United States. So if you're not here, sorry about that.
For you Japanese listeners, we're sorry.
I'm sure they have some way to watch it.
You're on your own.
But here in America, there is no streaming service that will allow you to watch the original Mobile Suit Gundam, Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta, or Char's Counterattack, and a lot of the other older series as well. So that's sort of a shame. I'm actually surprised that not one streaming service, particularly maybe Crunchyroll, which is obviously an anime-focused streaming service. I'm surprised that they, given the amount of Gundam content they have, that they don't at least have, say, the original Mobile Suit Gundam compilation movies. So it's a little surprising to me. So here's a summary of what is available as of May 2020. Netflix has Gundam Unicorn, the OVAs, so basically like movie formats. There was, I think, 7 of them. It was later repackaged into a television series, but Netflix has the OVA version. And Netflix also has Iron-Blooded Orphans. So if you have Netflix, which chances are you do, probably at this point most people in America have access to Netflix somehow, you already have access to 2 of, I think, the series that we could both agree are pretty great entry points. Unicorn has a lot of baggage, I guess, because it is a direct sequel to all of the older series. But in terms of animation quality, I mean, that's just a fun watch. So if you have Netflix, yeah. So I think if you have Netflix, you're kind of set. Those are the only 2 Gundam series that it has, but they're both great. So
for now,
if you have
I'd love to see Gundam Build Fighters on there.
That Gundam Build Fighters is available.
Not on Netflix.
Not on Netflix. Oh yeah. On Hulu, you have a bit of a wider selection. You have Gundam Wing, which was really big. That was basically what got Gundam big in America in the late 90s.
Let me explain why to our listeners. All right, if you were growing up in the 90s up to maybe the early 2000s, boy bands were like the biggest thing in America as far as music and stuff. There was like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all the other B-list type boy bands. So the makers of Gundam thought it'd be a great idea to make a series that was pretty much a boy band series. And boy did they make their boy band. Gundam Wing, is like, there's like 5 pilots and they're like young men, they're boys, and they're they pretty much do everything except like sing.
All the Gundam Wing fans are just gonna hate you now probably forever and ever.
Yeah, but, call me Rockefeller Foundation.
But if you've listened to episode 0, you'll know that I think Isaac's first model kit was a Gundam Wing model kit. So was mine actually. Yeah. So I think even though Wing may not be our favorite series today, I think we owe Gundam Wing a bit of gratitude.
Be kind to us, Gundam Wing fans.
Also on Hulu has 8th MS Team. They're the only streaming service that has 8th MS Team. So, I think both of us have said how much we like 8th MS Team. So I think Hulu having that is really unique, and there must be someone at Hulu who really enjoys 8th MS Team because they don't.
Random.
It is really random. Like they're not carrying War in the Pocket or Double 80 War in the Pocket or Double 83 Stardust Memory.
Right.
They don't have those. You would think that it would be negotiated as a package of the 3.
You think someone would have it, yeah.
You would think, but no, they just have 8th MS Team. I get the sense that there was some guy at Hulu who was in charge of acquiring that content. He was like, "Nah, I want 8th MS Team." I'm like, "I'm not doing this deal without 8th MS Team." So.
Hang on a second. Let me put forward a theory. Okay, so a lot of these shows were also shown on television, like on Cartoon Network and stuff, right?
Yeah, most of these were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm thinking the rights were sold after that ended to different, I guess, mother companies, more or less, and then that's what causes those shows to, rather than be grouped together, one ends up on Hulu, and then the window gets open for some to go on Netflix or whatever.
You're probably right to some extent. I mean, I won't say where I work, but I happen to work in the media industry, and media rights are very messy most of the time. So it wouldn't be surprising that a lot of this is happenstance as well. But it is
as messy as cleaning up a colony drop.
No, nothing is that messy.
By Sydney.
By Dublin.
Them too.
But anyway, Hulu having 8th MS Team I think is pretty cool. Hulu has Gundam Seed, but they do not have Gundam Seed Destiny, the sequel.
That's forgivable. And you know why, listeners? Because Gundam Seed is superior to Gundam Seed Destiny.
And I believe, I'm going to double check this. Yep. So the Gundam Seed on Hulu is sub only.
That's a crime.
and we are going to get to why a little bit later. Hulu also has Gundam 00, which is another pretty modern series. Gundam 00 came out in 2007 to 2008.
Well,
Yeah, it's mostly well done. Yeah, I would think, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think you would agree with me that we would both probably recommend Gundam 00 right after, or maybe even right before Iron Blooded Orphans, given how new it is, if it wasn't for the movie.
The movie is almost optional, though. Actually, almost
it
optional.
Should be optional.
Yeah. Hang on, let me give listeners a quick background on why. Okay, Gundam, unlike most sci-fi, there are no aliens. Okay, there's not, green aliens show up and then humanity has to work together to like learn their technology or fight their tripods or whatever, right? That never happens in Gundam. The bad guys are humans, the good guys are humans. It's a human story. For whatever reason, they decided to throw that out the window with like the Gundam 00 movie and aliens show up. And it is just not a good movie, not a good conclusion to the 00 story.
It was certainly a different experience. That's where I'm going to leave it for tonight. Because we'll definitely...
that movie? If you're a listener and you like that movie, please comment and tell us why.
I don't personally know anyone who enjoyed the film, but I'm sure there are a legion of fans.
Who?
I don't know. Again, I've never met anyone, but I'm sure they have. I'm sure the movie has its fans. I mean, someone has to like it, even though we personally didn't enjoy
animators?
It.
The writer.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll do a whole episode on the Gundam 00 movie someday.
I hope it's clear by now to our listeners that we're not like blind fans. We don't just eat up whatever they put out. Like Gundam isn't, a perfect franchise. It's fun and great, but oh boy, sometimes it's not good.
Sometimes there's, some interesting ones mixed in.
Sometimes there's silver space aliens.
And I will say this: where Gundam 00 is available for streaming, I don't believe the movie is available on those services.
Sometimes you get a Gundam 00, sometimes you get a G Savior.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting to G Savior too. Don't worry. So in addition to 00, Hulu has the Unicorn OVAs, just like Netflix does. In addition to the Unicorn OVAs, Hulu also has the Origin OVAs. So what is Origin? Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin is an adaptation of a manga of the same name. Those Origin OVAs were released in 2015 to 2018. There were 6 OVAs. It was later repackaged into a TV series of 13 episodes in 2019. And so those are sort of a prequel, I'll say, mostly to the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. So the animation is super nice, super crisp, but it's not quite as far along in the timeline. So you won't see like too much of, hardcore Gundam fighting.
Yeah. You won't see the actual meat of the war.
Yeah. I would go back and watch that last. Probably wouldn't be the first thing I watch if I'm trying to watch Gundam, but it's super interesting watch if you've been into Gundam for a little bit.
Yeah, it's the Rogue One of Gundam, more or less.
Yeah, there you go. And I think I speak for most Gundam fans, or at least Universal Century fans, when I say that one day we hope that the original series is redone in the Origin OVA style.
Why not? There's no reason not to. Just make it.
Yeah.
It would be so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would make Gundam, I think, so much more accessible. Because right now.
Condense it. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Because right now we're talking about how to get into this 40-year-old series.
Right.
And I have no great way to convince someone to go watch the original series. When I feel like that's where someone should start. They should just be able to go watch Mobile Suit Gundam, but because it's 40 years old, it has old animation, it turns people off, which is unfortunate because I still think it's one of the best series.
It is, but you have to get to the point in Gundam where you're interested enough that you'll see it. So
right. And now there's so many things
there.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many things competing for people's attention today that it's hard to convince someone especially a young person, to go do that.
Back in the day when when we were just wee little lads at Catholic school, we had the time to watch all these anime.
We did. Yeah, but now there's 50 anime on Netflix that you can watch with the press of a button. So convincing them to go watch an old one is almost impossible. So Netflix and Hulu, those are two things. You probably have one of those. There are some additional streaming services that I looked into that have Gundam. So there's Crunchyroll, which is probably, if you're an anime watcher, you might have Crunchyroll. They have a big selection as well. They actually have the biggest selection. They have Mobile Fighter G Gundam, which Isaac is maybe not the biggest fan of, but I love.
I can't stand it.
I love Mobile Fighter G Gundam. It has Gundam Wing. Crunchyroll, much to Isaac's pleasure, has both Seed and Seed Destiny.
Hey.
Again, sub only.
Oh.
Gundam 00, but not the Gundam 00 movie. At least I didn't see it on there.
Thank God.
And then this is what I think is really interesting. Crunchyroll has the Unicorn TV series and the Origin TV series. So again, Hulu has the Origin and Unicorn OVAs, whereas Crunchyroll has the TV series, which is interesting. So again, plays into the whole media rights thing. I can license this to.
Going on?
I can license this format to this person, and I can license the other format to the other person. Exclusivity is a big thing in media rights, and I have a feeling something like that's going on there. But and Crunchyroll also has Iron Blooded Orphans. Yeah. I should drop in Funimation's streaming service. They have Iron Blooded Orphans, and they have the Origin TV series, just like Crunchyroll, just like Crunchyroll. And then let's not forget YouTube, the official Gundam YouTube channel, Gundam Info. They have Seed and Seed Destiny, sub only, and not in HD. So to summarize on Seed, because Isaac believes that is a great jumping on point. You can get Seed on Hulu, but not Destiny, and sub only in HD. You can get Seed and Seed Destiny on YouTube, but not in HD, sub only. And you can get Seed and Seed Destiny on Crunchyroll, but sub only, but in HD. So I know that's complicated, and we'll get to why a little bit later. So that about and on YouTube, I don't want to forget this because we both like the Build Fighters series, which is really unique. Why don't you tell them a little bit about the Build Fighters series?
Build Fighters is kind of it's like meta. Okay. Yep. So it's its own little universe. You don't need to watch previous series to know about it or to enjoy it. It's about a world where people build Gundam models and then they put them in like this little toy arena, this like hologram thing, and then they fight. So it's a lot like almost like a Pokemon kind of take on Gundam, where like instead of trainers you have like builders, and like they each one has their own kind of personality that they put into their model. And these are actually like little toy models, the ones you buy, and then they like put them in their little battle arena, and they duke it out. So it's about this, the main character, he's kind of like on his way to try to go to a tournament. And it's about his adventures on the way there with his, model, and how he upgrades it and all that to make it a better fighter in their game arena. So it's pretty fun. It's a very fun, lighthearted kind of take on the on Gundam. It's there's no civilians being butchered and billions of people being killed by super weapon kind of Gundam take. No. This is this is much more even kid friendly, you could say, or just everybody friendly.
I would say it's kid friendly for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be like the first thing I would recommend someone watch, but if you've watched like 2 or 3 Gundam series, I think it's a really fun self-referential like watch full of Easter eggs from other Gundam series, which I think you'll get a kick out of if you understand.
If you're a fan that's like really focused on the battles, this is almost a series for you. This and actually, Mobile Fighter G Gundam, just because it's all battle. There's not going to be a bunch of political discussion or intrigue and plots. What would be the point? They're playing a game.
That's true. Yeah, and the battles are actually really cool in Build Fighters
Awesome.
because they're not limited by the technology in one timeline. Because the characters live in a series or in a universe much like ours, where, well, with the exception of having like this magical Gundam model fighting device,
Yeah.
they have access to all of the series, and they've watched all the series. So when they customize their models, they pull parts from all the different series. So if you ever thought to yourself, well, I like this Gundam, but I like that one, but they were made, or they're in the same timeline, but they're 50 years apart, or they're in three different series. The kid might just put all the parts from all three of the ones you like into one Gundam, which is pretty fun and pretty satisfying.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. So they YouTube, the official account for Gundam Info, they have Build Fighters Try, Build Divers, and the second Build Divers show, which is called Re-Rise. I haven't actually watched Divers or whatever Re-Rise is, but Build Fighters was followed by Build Fighters Try, which was a sequel. And then I think there were like one or two Build Fighters movies, which I haven't actually seen. There's one called, which I think is hilarious, called Build Fighters GM's Counterattacks. Clearly a play on Char's Counterattack. I think it involves a whole bunch of GMs, which
not?
I think is hilarious. Yeah. So you can tell they're having fun with that one. Then I think Build Divers is yet another series in the same timeline. Recommend all those shows, especially because they're free on YouTube. You can go watch them right now.
Go check them out.
Yep. So that concludes my summary of what's available. Most people are going to subscribe to at least one of those, I think, at this point, especially during quarantine, because you got nothing else to do. But again, I think the glaring omission is that there is no platform to watch the original Mobile Suit Gundam, Zeta Gundam, and Char's Counterattack, and a lot of the other UC series, which a lot of us who've been into Gundam for a while would say are maybe some of the better series. We could argue what's the best, but they're definitely, I would say, some of the better ones.
I'd say they're not only some of the better ones, but they're the ones you're glad they're accessible. Other ones, maybe they had like a bigger impact on a timeline, but they're not necessarily easy to watch, or if you're just getting started, probably not the best choice.
Yeah, something like Victory Gundam's, further out in the timeline in Universal Century.
Zeta's pretty awesome, but you don't need to watch it right now.
Right. Yeah.
Please don't. It's heavy.
Don't watch it like right after watching Build Fighters.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the second way to watch Gundam right now, which is Blu-ray. And we're actually going to cut it there and leave the Blu-ray portion for episode 2. So like, comment, subscribe. Tell us how you would recommend to get into Gundam, and we'll see you on the next episode of Colony Drop. Until then, keep those Minovsky reactors warm.